everybody, so today I wanted to talk to you about foundations and which foundations I use, which ones I find to be helpful, which ones I like to wear during the day versus at night, summer versus winter. So as you can see, I have a ton of foundations here. I just don't believe in using one. I think that there are some that are good for days, some that are good for night, some that are lighter than others. So I don't believe in having one. So I don't. I'm not gonna go through every single foundation because just sitting in front of me, I kid you not, I think there's about 10 foundations that I use on a, believe it or not, on a regular basis. So I think I'm just gonna pick maybe my top 2 or 3. I don't know, I wanna share all of them with you. I think I'm gonna just keep it to 3, maybe 4. I don't know. We'll see, I'm gonna surprise you. So what I have on my face right now, my brows are done and my eyes are done. Typically speaking, depending on how dramatic I do my eyes, I do actually do my eyes first and then I do my foundation, only because if I'm gonna be using a lot of eyeshadows, I don't want fallout on my foundation. It's just a pain in the butt to try to get your eyeshadow out of foundation. So I would rather do my eyes first, clean off any excess eyeshadow, and then go ahead and put on my foundation. I just find that easier. There's no rhyme or reason. Actually, I just gave you the reason, but there's no right or wrong, I guess is what I meant to say. So whatever works for you, honestly, go for it. There's no rule book. Well, I would probably say my go-to everyday foundation is actually the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Foundation. I think this foundation is a really good daytime foundation because it's not matte, it's not dewy, it's somewhere kind of in the middle, and it's buildable. You can put powder on it if you want to. You don't have to. I think it sits very well on its own. I actually don't feel like I need a primer with this one. I might, if anything, just put a little bit of a matte primer in my T-zone area, just because that's maybe where I personally get a little oily during the day, especially if it's hot. So I'm going to show you how to apply a stick foundation. So I apply all of my foundations differently. Liquid, sticks, creams, they all kind of require different brushes or sponges, or even sometimes I'll use my hands if it's like a BB cream. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I use for this stick foundation. I actually like a really dense flathead kind of a brush. You can kind of see it's really small. The bristles are pretty dense. And it's pretty flat actually, and this is the Sephora brush in number 46. It's the Pro Flawless Bronzer actually, but I find that it works really well as a foundation brush. So with stick foundations, it's really easy. I literally take the stick and I just wipe it on my face, really. So I do maybe like 2 or 3 on my cheek here. Definitely make sure you get under here, get your neck, because you don't want to be that girl that has one color here and another color here. It's just, don't do it, just don't do it. I put it down the bridge of my nose, on the sides, Cupid's bow, up my forehead, around. I kind of like make a little heart shape around my eyebrows, and I try not to get too close to my hairline because when you buff it out, it's gonna get to your hairline. And that's another thing, like the neck, you want to make sure that you actually get to your hairline. You can wash it out, but don't be that girl that has a perimeter of a different color. Sometimes what I'll do kind of just depends on what my skin is doing in the weather, but for the most part, typically I will take a setting spray, and this one is Tarte Rainforest of the Sea, and it smells very tangerine, citrusy. So what I like to do is spray the head of my brush, and just to give it a little bit of a set. So I'm gonna take my brush now that's a little damp, and I'm just gonna start doing circular motions, bringing the foundation into places that I maybe didn't put as much. So you see I didn't put any on my chin because I personally don't like it to be too cakey under my lips. So I'm gonna bring this cheek foundation into my chin area, and I'm just buffing everything out in circles. I think for me, when I buff it out in circular motion, it just works better. Under my eyes, yes, I just sweep it. But for the most part, I just go like this in circles and make sure you're blending your neck. Don't forget, I've done that before. I've actually gone outside and totally forgot to blend my neck. It was so embarrassing, and I'm actually upset at all of the women who I passed by who didn't say anything to me. If I see your foundation like that, I'm gonna help assist it out. I'm not gonna let you walk around like that. So this is all you're doing. You're just gonna buff it into your skin with your brush. And it already has a kind of finish to it because I put the setting spray in it. And I personally don't use a powder too much to set my makeup. I just think it adds too much cake to my skin. But that's my skin. Some girls, if your skin is a little more on the oily side, you might want to set it so that way it actually stays matte. But as you can see, the brush did it, and it kind of gives like an airbrush flawless, as Beyonce would say, a flawless finish, and it's really easy. It takes 2 seconds to do, and I love the finish. It's kind of satiny, I would say. There you go. Satin finish is what this one would be versus matte or dewy. It's really right in the middle. So the next foundation that I want to share with you is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. It's a liquid, so the way I would apply this one versus the stick, this one I use a beauty blender, and I swear by this beauty blender. For me personally, I don't like using a brush with liquid foundation. I just find that it ends up being streaky. I can apply it and kind of just get it around the surface, but then ultimately I end up with the beauty blender and I kind of blend it all into the skin. Because this is a matte foundation, I typically would wear this foundation at night. There's just something to me about going out with a matte finish. I just think it is so chicy dooky. I just like it. During the day, I don't typically use a matte foundation unless it's summer and it's hot and I'm sweating. Then I actually will use a matte primer, a matte foundation, because I'm trying to kind of overshadow all of the oil that will be coming out of my face due to the weather. But typically speaking, on normal weather, I have pretty combination skin. So at night, I like to use matte, and this one is my absolute favorite. So with this foundation, I kind of do the same applying process as I do the stick. So again, I'm gonna take a setting spray, and it really doesn't matter what setting spray you use. I just recommend having a damp brush or a damp beauty blender. And then I always go with a foundation with a pump. I don't like something that I have to like pour out. It just gets messy. So typically with this, I use about three pumps, and then if I need more, I can get more. I just try not to waste any foundation because this stuff is not cheap. So what I'm gonna do with this is now I just have it, and I use the round edge of the beauty blender, and all I'm gonna do is just start dabbing it. Now for this, I just kind of start dabbing it in random places, and then what I do is I kind of bring it all together after I feel like every area is covered with foundation. So I lightly will do it under my chin because again, I don't like it to be cakey, under my skin. And then I will bring it up the sides here, under my eyes. If I'm gonna use a concealer, I typically will go lighter under my eyes because I just don't like super cakey foundation. And what's nice about this foundation is a few pumps actually gets you a really good coverage. This one is also buildable, and I think it's good for oily skin. Dry skin, you might want to use a moisturizing primer underneath, but I think it's actually pretty good for most skin types. But I do recommend using a proper primer depending on how oily or not oily your skin is. So for me, I don't really use too much of an oily foundation because I'm combination, so I don't want to bring out the oils that I have. I want to try to keep it as neutral as possible. So for me, I kind of, if I really had to choose one or the other, I would choose a matte primer, definitely, or a hydrating one. Just because it says hydrating doesn't mean that it's going to be oily. So those are the two that I personally like to use. Now this one blends pretty good down to the neck with just a little bit. So as you can see, with only 3 pumps, I have a full face. A full face. So this one, again, I'm not gonna put a powder over it. I like the little bit of dew that it might have, so I'm not gonna add a powder unless it's really hot outside and I feel like I'm gonna sweat. Then yes, I'm gonna add a powder, especially to my T-zone area, but I will lightly put it all over, or a setting powder. You can either use an actual foundation press powder or a setting powder. I just go ahead and use the foundation one because if I'm gonna cake it on, I'm gonna cake it on. Okay, so now I've showed you a somewhat dewy kind of stick foundation. I've showed you a very matte liquid foundation. Now I'm gonna show you a BB cream. It's actually a tinted moisturizer, which is the similar kind of consistency as a BB cream. So for you girls who don't like to have full-on foundation, but you just want something to smooth it out or even the skin tone, a BB cream or a tinted moisturizer is going to be perfect for you. So I was just at Sephora and I was looking for something light for days that I'm kind of doing a no makeup look, or I just want a little bit of mascara and a little bit of color, something very simple. So I went to Bare Minerals section and I looked for a tinted moisturizer, and everybody at Sephora swore by this, and when I started using it, now I swear by it. So what this is the Complexion Rescue, and it's just a tinted hydrating gel cream, which is actually really interesting. I like the gel consistency. I feel like it stays better for me throughout the day, and this actually has sunscreen in it. It has 30 SPF, so that's also nice because you're never too young to start using anti-aging products and take care of your skin, okay? Okay. So now for something like this, a BB cream or a tinted moisturizer, I do not use a beauty blender, and I do not use, actually, I take that back. I do use a beauty blender, but really just to even it out. I actually use my hands. And the way I apply it is the same way that I would apply face lotion, actually. So all I'm gonna do, I have a little bit on the tips of my fingers, and I'm just gonna rub it in the same way I do my moisturizer, my soap, anything that I use my hands for. And I just brush it across like this. And you can always add more. Don't be afraid to add more. It's not gonna look cakey. And you know what? Sometimes I don't even feel like I need a brush or a beauty blender to even it out because of the gel consistency. It really does spread onto your face like a moisturizer. That's exactly what it is. So it's gonna be pretty even when you apply it. And that's actually, it's so easy, and it kind of gives you a little bit of color without feeling cakey. You don't feel like you have foundation on. I actually feel like I have nothing on, but I hope you can see the difference from when I didn't have it on till now. It just kind of evened out the tone of my skin and gave me a little something something. So there you go. I've now showed you a liquid foundation, a stick foundation, and a gel foundation. There we go. So those are my top 3 foundations. I do use other ones, but it becomes redundant after a little bit. There's no real reason to have 10 foundations, but yet I find one. So I hope you found this informational. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the video and I will make sure to answer your questions. If there's anything you'd like to see, let me know. I am gonna try to put out videos at least once a week or maybe once every other week and kind of switch it up. So I hope you liked this, and please leave me feedback. I would love to hear what your thoughts were or what your questions were, or if you're gonna try these, let me know if you like them. Bye guys.